Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because, folks, life's too short to be miserable. Hey, welcome back, guys. Guess what? It is November. Can you believe it? I mean, I honestly can't believe it. I'm still uncertain of how we are at the end of the year because this year has flown by, but we're inching closer. And one of my favorite activities to do in November is really try to switch into a place of gratitude where I don't know if it's just because of Thanksgiving. I always associate November with gratitude practice but I really want to take a month to really take some time to slow down and celebrate. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about something that we often overlook, especially for you high achieving people out there. I know who you are, who really want to create possibilities for your life, or maybe you do all the things for your family, your work, anybody and everybody. And this is something I find people struggle with, and that is celebrating our wins. Yep, you know, those big victories are little moments. They're actually pretty amazing. And celebrating is powerful and it fuels us forward. So today, my goal is to just chat with you briefly. This is going to be a short episode, but to help you kind of check in with yourself and figure out what you need to celebrate in this season that will help move the needle forward. It's crazy. I'll be honest with you. We've talked about this on the show, but some days I wake up and I'm like, wow, this is crazy because at some point I could have never imagined being here. I could have never imagined this was a possibility for my life. I couldn't have never imagined that I would, be in a really great relationship. And doesn't mean that it doesn't have challenges or, that I would have a teenage daughter. Doesn't mean that that doesn't have challenges of parenting, but, that I have a business that lights me up and I do it with people that I really am truly grateful for. And we get to impact people. I mean, sometimes when I look at life, if I really take time to sink in what is possible and to really celebrate that, I realize that I often don't give myself enough credit. I don't give people around me enough credit and I don't celebrate enough. And so that's why I'm coming with you today because I think one of the things that I was reading last night from a former pastor of mine, it was this old, I don't know how I came across it. I know how I came across it. Even though this recording will come out a little few days later, it's election week this week. And so I was doing my research to make sure I felt good about the decision that I was making. And I always go to this person for reference on what they say. Well, this year I didn't find anything, but that's okay. I found a really good blog that they had written years ago, and it was talking about the power of just moving consistently, or what they said was plodding on. So, Nathan, if you're listening, yes, I am referencing a blog post you wrote several years ago. But it was called about plodding on and how, kind of using the story of the tortoise or the hare, and that really the tortoise gets to the finish line because it's just being consistent. It's taking steps every day. It's moving a little bit closer. And it's also reminding that this will pass. At some point, what's here will not be here anymore. And that's a good thing sometimes when you're going through stressful situations. But it's also a reminder that whatever thing you're in this season, it's going to pass. You're going to move forward. You're going to get to the finish line if you just keep stepping. But how do we celebrate along the way? And how can we appreciate the progress that's been made so that we can keep up the momentum? Because I'll be honest, what I've learned along this journey is it's the moments that you feel like you want to give up that you should really keep going because you'll get through it and that'll pass. But then you'll get to the other side and actually possibly end up where you've always wanted to be. And I think we have to celebrate these things along the journey and wins. I mean, as a therapist, I've worked with a lot of people who've really trying to make some hard changes. And I'll be honest with y'all, folks. If you've ever done therapy before, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy. Okay. Because why? Change is hard. Emotional change is hard. Behavioral change is hard. And so when you're even trying to create these things for your life,
change is hard. It often requires you to let go of something that maybe you've become really familiar with. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a mindset to move towards becoming, really, you know? And so today, part of that becoming is also celebrating along the way, big or small successes. And it's not just about patting ourselves on the back, it's about reinforcing the mindset that our efforts matter. Our efforts matter. I remember I was able to contribute to an article several years ago about letting your children fail and while it's good for them. And I got to pretty much give my perspective on this. But what I realized is that when we're raising children and when we're raising ourselves, is that we need to praise the effort. And we need to develop this mindset that it doesn't matter if I pass or fail. It doesn't matter if I succeeded in that endeavor. What matters is that I tried and that I showed up and I tried again. And I showed up and I tried again because, folks, that's learning. And so this article was let your children's fail. It's good for them because sometimes we learn from what didn't go right. If everything went right all the time, I would never learn how to deal with what went wrong. That those challenges build resiliency. And so one of the things that we have to do is when we are being resilient and it is hard as heck, is we need some inspiration fuel because when we celebrate a win or a success, that gives us energy to keep going, especially when things get tough. And they're going to get tough. Okay. You know, this ain't the sugarcoating a podcast. This is the real life podcast. And things will get tough. But celebrating the wins can help bring fuel to help you keep moving forward. Another way this can help is it can increase your motivation and confidence. Every little celebration is a confidence builder, nudging us to aim even higher. Really, seriously. And so I can think about, sometimes it's just for me taking a minute in the day to be like, you know what? All these things are maybe not going right today, but let's try to focus on what thing is going right and how can we take some time to celebrate? So here is some ways to celebrate the wins, okay, that may be simple that I really want you to try this week. You don't need a big party to recognize your achievements. Sometimes it's just taking a moment to appreciate. So I want you to think to yourself, what is something going right in my life right now? What is something I'm making progress on? It may not be perfect, but I'm making progress. I'm showing up. I'm doing the hard stuff. And sometimes it's acknowledging yourself for showing up. Okay. So I want you to think about what is it? What goal am I working towards? What thing in my life am I making progress on? What is something that I was maybe acknowledged for that maybe I'm not giving myself enough party for? I'll never forget there was this one girl I was scrolling on social media, and this is like maybe about 7 years ago, but I can remember this distinctly because I was reading this post she had put about herself. Okay. And she was acknowledging all these incredible things that she had did. And I remember I read it and I was like, wow, this seems so cool. Why is it hard for me to celebrate myself like that? And I realized that there was something that's inside of me that sometimes has a hard time putting myself out there, but sometimes there's something inside of me that has a hard time giving myself credit, you know? And it doesn't mean that something that has been created didn't take a bunch of people to do it, but sometimes I don't give myself enough credit to celebrate these things. In fact, last night I got home from work and there was a piece of mail waiting for me. Okay. And this piece of mail had been sent to me from myself. I went on a retreat a few weekends or maybe about a month or so ago. And one of the challenges was to write this letter to ourselves. And it really was a letter kind of almost of appreciation. And I just read this letter and it was great. It was like, Christy, I just want you to know you are badass. And it feels uncomfortable even saying it out loud, but it was so awesome to get a letter from past me a month ago that was reminding me to celebrate the wins. So if you need to write a letter to yourself to celebrate what you're going to accomplish, that's a way to celebrate the wins. maybe this is a whole nother episode, but there is this powerful exercise I've done a few times where I write a letter to myself a year from now, celebrating the amazing things that happened. And I normally write this letter with my goals in mind. So if I have a goal to be in an incredible relationship, or, I know that's kind of like for your single people out there, okay, that's one for you. Or it could be to have a better relationship, or it could be like, I want this financial security, or I want to achieve this skill or develop the skill that I've been. So you write a letter to your future self, just acknowledging yourself for the incredible year you just had and the stuff that you were able to make happen. And it's so cool. I have done this, and I've hid the letters and then I forgot about the letters. So you can always give a letter, whether it's a letter of appreciation to your future self, a letter acknowledging the wins of everything that you were able to have come to pass, and give it to somebody and they can mail it to you on a certain date, or you can hide it. Just remind yourself where you hid it at. Okay, folks, because if you don't know where it's at, then it's going to be hard for you to read it. But it is really cool because when you read a month, of several months, a year later, a few years, well, not really few, but a year later, what you were celebrating in that moment. And then once you realize also what you're celebrating today, it can just be a really awesome, like, you're like, what? This is real. This is possible. But that's not really a small way. That just came to my mind. Another way is like 1-minute celebrations. So you can share, maybe you can give yourself a dance break. I love a good dance break. Or I know we say pat on the back, but I remember I used to be a clinical supervisor. So people that were pursuing their therapy license, I would be their supervisor. And this was normally a 2-year relationship. And so at least minimum. And so I can remember whenever they would really work hard to develop a skill or feel more confident in something they were doing, we would really take some time to pat ourselves on the back, because sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. You might celebrate getting yourself a fun coffee treat or just jotting it down in a journal, but you can do it very simply in just doing a 1-minute, what's a win for today. You can actually start off your day with saying, what's a win from yesterday, or your evening by what's a win. But just taking a really quick time, a minute to acknowledge what a win is, can go really far. Another thing is to share the win. So, like I told you, that person that I was scrolling on Facebook and then I saw their kind of like wins that they had had, you can do that. Or you could tell someone. Sometimes it's like letting somebody know, hey, I did this, or hey, I figured this out, or yay, I'm so excited. It actually can inspire other people too. And then anchor the moment. So, this is where you take a mental snapshot or an actual photo to remember how you felt in that moment when you're celebrating. I love going back and being like, oh, wow, yeah, I celebrated that. Okay. And I don't do this all the time, folks. Like, this is a reminder to myself. Half these podcasts are reminders to myself. But the power of recognizing small wins along the way to big goals is huge. And it's really important to take the time to celebrate the journey. And after you learn to celebrate, guess what? Part of it is building the habit. Learning to celebrate wins is a habit that you have to sometimes cultivate, okay? It doesn't just automatically happen all the time where your brain automatically goes to abundance mindset, focusing on what's going right, celebrating the wins. No, often it's the opposite. You focus on what's going wrong, where are the problems at, what is everything I'm doing wrong. This is how I've found most people and myself. And so to build a habit of celebrating wins, practicing gratitude, however you want to look at it, requires some intention if it doesn't come naturally. So you could set a daily or weekly reminder, like on your calendar and your phone, to say, celebrate a win, celebrate something you did great today. You could create a win wall or a journal. So you could make a whiteboard somewhere that you can kind of see it, a poster board. I mean, if you really want to go back old school, put that on the wall, folks. You could do a bulletin board where you just put a win as it happens. What is a win for you? And, or if you really want to, and that's like too much, you're like, Christy, I'm not crafty. I don't think I can put something on the wall. Do a note in your phone. And then every time something great happens, jot it down in that little note on your phone. Okay. And also make sure when it's time to really celebrate, do it with others. I mean, this could be something whether it's a quick high five to your coworker or at dinner or sharing around the kitchen table things that your family is celebrating and wins for today. Or you can shout out to it, the team or just shout it from the rooftops. It's a win, you know, because sharing wins brings connection, but it also helps make the journey that much more fun, folks. And remember, celebrations create ripple effect and a positive ripple effect. So often we can get bombarded by messages that are negative. Okay. I mean, honestly, guys, it's like ingrained in so much advertisement because if you can get a negative message, then it puts you on like alert and it can warn emotional response and then you're drawn in. But what if actually celebrating wins could create more positive mindsets? Not only for us, but for others. So, celebrating our wins helps shift our perspective to focus on what's going right, even in challenging times. And when we celebrate our wins, we give others permission to celebrate theirs. Okay. Just like that girl did on social that day. She gave me permission to celebrate my wins. And then what happens is it creates this ripple of positivity and resilience, saying that we can get through. Just because things aren't going right, there is some things that are going right and you can keep moving forward. Guys, here's my challenge to you. Celebrating wins isn't just a nice to do. It is essential for staying motivated and appreciating the journey. So I encourage you to celebrate at least one win this week today while you're listening, big or small. If you're driving, give yourself a woohoo, or if you're doing something, give yourself a pat on the back for something. And actually tag me or share it with a friend. Let me know, email me, send carrier pigeon of how it feels to really own that win, that success, that progress. Let me know how it feels because let me tell you something. I was reminded the other day by a speaker I heard. She said, she was talking about self-care, but she said the only person that really can do self-care is you. Nobody's coming to take care of, I'm not saying there are people that take care of you, but like you are responsible for taking care of yourself. And I want to flip that and say also that you are responsible for celebrating your wins. Some people are busy these days, folks. They're not always going to pay attention to the incredible things that you are making possible. So it is up to you to celebrate you and the fact that you got up today and you showed up and you kept moving forward even when things are hard. So remember, celebrating is part of the process. So let's make it a habit and let's inspire them possibilities every day. Go celebrate. Until next time.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.